Everyone has a bright light inside of them that deserves to be seen by the world. That's why it's time to shine the light on the extraordinary who are accomplishing phenomenal things. This is the Shine Out Loud Show with Lillian Ogbogo.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever in the world you are. This is another episode of Shine Out Loud with me, Lillian Ogbogo. Now, tonight is going to be really an amazing conversation. Yes, I say this every week because I not only have amazing people each week, but tonight especially, if you grew up in the 80s and 90s, this person is going to be particularly important to you. Now, he created music of that era and that generation. This man is a multi-talented, multifaceted person. He has been a producer of both music and film, solo artist, a co-founder of a group. He has worked on the side with other groups. He has helped produce and educate those in the music industry, as well as sharing his vast knowledge about the music industry with others. He is someone that has gone from musician to teacher to producer to distributor. I am talking about none other than the illustrious Jay King. Hi, Jay.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How you doing?
You make me sound so fine. You make me sound good.
That's because you are.
I'm gonna have to travel with me. Let me have Lillian introduce me, please.
No, you are a very incredible man because you have a lifetime's worth of career in one lifetime. You are doing so much. So I guess my first opening question to you would be, how did you know that the music industry was the place you wanted to be in?
I've always loved music, but you never really know where you're supposed to be. You just get on the ride and you get into life. You know, music wasn't what I thought I would do. I really thought I would be a dancer because I used to break and pop and dance like that, or an actor. I never saw myself as a musician. I played trumpet, and it's just once rap started happening, and I'm, in my early 20s, late teens, I fell in love with rap. So you think you're going to be a rapper at that point. It's the easiest way to break in. And I had one rap record. I was in a group called Frost, and we did a song called The Battle Beat. Okay. And it went nowhere fast. And, when you look at albums, you always think the people on those albums as a kid, you think they're famous and you think they're rich. So you want to be one of those people on that album. And then you make a record and you find out that, you're not really that famous nor that rich. And you try to figure out how to do it, how to get to a space where I did, where, it was going to be comfortable for me. Mm-hmm. And the independent process was the beginning. So, making a record, releasing it independently, and having some control over what was going to happen. That's how it started for me. It was really a blessing, and I was just lucky and blessed and fortunate that Rumors became the record it was.
Exactly, and that's the thing. For those who may not know you musically, they know the sound. So first of all, we're talking about Rumors. That song was the iconic song of his generation. It was and actually, I think if we look at the song now, it's very timely if you were to play it now, because with all the fake news that we experience on a day-to-day basis, Rumors will exactly talk about what that is. There's a lot of stuff going on. But Rumors was something more important, because what people didn't know, that it was the first time an independent distributor went around and you broke records. You sold over, if I'm not mistaken, over 32 million?
Well, no, 3.5 million in the United States, but if you look at it around the world, 6.5, 7 million records, but which was quite an incredible feat for an independent without major distribution. So there was no major manufacturing in place. There was no major distribution in place. There was no major marketing dollars in place. And it just spoke to the power of independent radio stations at that time.
Right.
You know, it was before Cumulus and Clear Channel and all these different organizations existed. You know, there was still a lot of indie radio stations out there that could really break a record. And it spoke to the connection of the streets and the people to radio. And so it was a wonderful time. It's a lot like the internet is today, where, you know, you don't have to have a hit record on the radio for people to discover you. You know, between YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and you know, and then Periscope. There's just so much you can do to connect with people. And if something goes viral, it can change your life.
Exactly.
And that's what the independent distribution was for me. It was a life changer.
And, you know, and at that time, being so young in the industry, why did you decide that you had to take ownership of not just the music production, but the distribution? Why did you feel that was the way forward for you?
Well, to be honest with you, it was the only option. Nobody wanted my music. Nobody thought the record was good enough. And once you're out there, what you recognize is that when you're the record label, you're the one. Nobody can tell you what to do. You are it. And once you get just a little taste of that, you like it. And everything you do moving forward, it's going to reflect it. And that's
Right.
what happened for me.
Okay. So let's talk a bit more about Rumors. What was the inspiration behind that song? Because I'm curious. What inspired Rumors?
Well, Rumors was written by Marcus Thompson, Alex Hill, and Michael Marshall. And they wrote it about what was happening at the time in their lives and, you know, just getting out of high school and everything. And the record was written, I believe, right before they graduated. And so by the time I got a hold of it, the record was already in a pretty good state. I just developed it into, from a production standpoint, into a real record, into a record that sounded like a record.
Okay.
And it cleaned up some of how we approached the record. And that was my contribution to it. And so that's how, you know, the record really started with as an idea, and I loved their idea. I just thought it was great, but I thought that, and they hated it when I was done with it. They didn't like what I did to it. They thought it was horrible. And I thought I made a hit record. So I guess I was right and they was wrong.
Yeah, you were definitely right. So, you know, looking at your musical influences, looking at everything that you've done, who inspired you to create?
Well, I mean, it's a bunch of people. You know, music inspired me to create. I loved Earth, Wind, and Fire, of course, Marvin Gaye, the Beatles, Confunction, Cameo. There were just a bunch of music, Hall & Oates, ABC Band, Thomas Dolby. There was just so much music coming at me that I just loved. Joe Jackson, you know, NXS, Squeeze. It was just all these different. Every time I turned around, there was a different style of music, a different rhythm, a different beat, a different melody, a different voice, different sounds, and they just, even today, I love when I hear new sounding records that are interesting, in the 80s really created some different sounds and different rhythms where, Thomas Dolby blinded me with science was a funk record, a pop record, a blues record. It was all those things in one with a white guy singing it. So I remember when I heard Rock Me Amadeus, these were just, by Falco, these were just really cool songs. So I don't know, music has always moved me in a way, but those were the records and those were the sounds that were influencing me at that time.
Okay. That's a very impressive list. Some of them I've actually never actually heard of myself.
Well, I think I'm a bit older than you, so.
I think I need to do a musical education and find out who these people are and actually listen to some of these music. I think now, we're talking about music. We're talking about the generational gaps. And when you look at the 80s and 90s and even the music today, what still inspires you to create?
The love of music, music is a vibration that's in you. And so once you are a creator, unless that fire is put out in you, that's what you're going to do. And then, the idea is to not get so caught up in the era that you grew up in that you become a critic of what you're listening to. But you got to find that fine line, because a lot of the music that we hear today are like hamburgers. It's good while it's hot, but it don't have no real lifespan. Mm-hmm. And, so you don't want to make music without a lifespan, but you also don't want to judge music to the degree that your music starts to sound old and stale or yesterday-ish. So, there's a lot happening always in music and in the creating of music, especially from young people, that inspire you to do something. I love live instrumentation. I like records that have a live feeling to them. A lot of the records we hear today are more technical sounding, more mechanical, right, because they're done in a box. They're done, with a guy in his room or, in his studio with a computer and a controller, a keyboard of some sort, with drum machines, either individual machines, because now they want to make, people love the 808 sound and the Linn sound, and maybe they want the authentic Linn drum or the SP 1200. They want the actual sounds, but you can find them in the computer.
Okay.
And guys, this is how these guys are. This is how they're creating music. I've created music like that before. I like creating music, though, personally, with live musicians, where maybe I'll be at home and be in the box, and then I'll start sending what I create to other people, mm-hmm, and let them put their parts on. So they'll play the guitar live, the bass will be live, the keyboard will be a keyboard player playing live, and I'll import them into the session. And so I'll get the live session I'm looking for, but using today's technology, because I don't have to leave my house to make it happen.
And you have a point. There's a lot of technical work. There's a lot of isolation work. But when you think of it, you're talking about live creation. What do you think about what's your view on sampling? Does that hurt music, or is it something that's just an evolution of music?
I think it's an evolution of music. I think it's another form of creativity. There's a real art form to it. Just because you sample a record, and even if you sample a hit, don't mean that you're going to make a hit from it. There are a lot of guys that are really good at sampling records and creating a whole new things out of them. I believe that Kanye West is one of them, who I just think is brilliant when it comes to how he uses samples and how he uses records and what he does to create his music. I think it's brilliant. I think it's innovative, and I think it's cool. And so, and I think it's art.
Right.
And so, and I personally hope people always sample my music. It creates a whole new payday for me, and I appreciate
it. That's one way of looking at it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So, looking back on your career in all the industries that you've worked in, what has been your greatest challenge?
Greatest challenge probably is not getting caught up in the rigmarole of it. It's interesting how, when we were coming up, people would say that we weren't making music. And they would challenge us because we weren't making straight up jazz, or we weren't playing everything, or we didn't have a drummer because we had a drum machine or whatever.
Right.
And we would argue that point. And then now you got young people doing things even more mechanical than we did it. But we have an opinion about the way they do it. The same way people before us had an opinion about the way we do it. But we don't think there's anything wrong. We're only telling the truth because our music was better. But everybody says that about their music, right?
Yes.
Everybody says that about their era. So just, that's the most difficult part, is that you don't get caught up in that thing, that you don't become the thing that you hate when it comes to the growth of music, the creativity of it, and the vision and the future.
And I think that's an important lesson, is really not to get caught up even beyond music and beyond any industry that you work in, to give yourself room and flexibility to grow and see the possibilities.
Yes.
Now, going back to your bio, you describe yourself as a jack of all trades and master of many. Now, when you look at all the things that you do, which of your trades would you say has your heart?
All of them. They're all married to each other. They all have a connection to each other. And they all mean something to each other. One doesn't happen without the other. I always tell people I'm the least talented person I know. I don't know anybody who's less talented than I am. But I also don't know anybody who's going to outwork me. I'm going to outwork everybody around me. And that's my real talent, is my work ethic.
Right.
And so that's why those things are attractive to me, because they require me to work in different capacities, in different venues, different ways, for different reasons. And it really gives me a broad spectrum of the industry, a greater view of it, I think. And it helps me in my assessment of it and how I, and even how I interact with other folk that are in the business.
Okay. And when you going back, and I'm working my way through your bio, and I'm going through the different things that you do, and I'm looking at some of the things and that jump out at me. One of the things when I look at it and is when you talk about being a music industry activist.
Yes.
What is a music industry activist, and why do you see yourself as someone going down that road?
Well, because I think that as artists, we've been conditioned and trained to compete with each other, to not help each other. That if you help a guy, get on his feet, it's going to hurt you. I believe, when it comes to artists, owning and controlling who we are and what we do, that's not a conversation most people would have with us. Most people would tell us why we can't own it, why we can't control it, why we have to succumb to the ideas that are put in front of us and how people view us. And I disagree with the concept of that. And so I promote the idea of ownership, innovation, creativity, and self-accountability. We live in a world now where there's so much information in front of us. We can't be a victim of the system anymore, because we can read about anything we want to. We can learn anything we want to. When I first came into the music business, there weren't very many big books, if any, written about the industry that people could just read and understand, that a novice could read it and say, okay, I got a grasp of what this is. So if you talk about publishing with somebody, publishing is the boogeyman. Everybody told you how publishing is so difficult, and then you start reading about publishing and nobody's speaking to you from a simple standpoint of mathematics, because that's really all it is. Everybody's speaking to you as though this is the big bad wolf, and you just can't tackle publishing. But when I start breaking publishing down to you from an ownership standpoint and how it works, and the pennies, and that it's a penny business, and how all these pennies add up to dollars, which adds up to thousands of dollars, which add up to tens of thousands of dollars, to hundreds of thousands, to millions of dollars, and why publishing is so important. But owning a master is as important, because if you own the master and the master is paying the publisher, that means the master has enough money to pay the publisher, the writers, the producers, everybody, and himself.
Right.
So the master is important. So just, I think that's what I advocate. It's why, I'm doing I do music summits every year. I have Steve Ripley coming from the UK, coming to Sacramento for music summits. Mass Yamagata from Japan. Edwin Mashigo coming from South Africa.
Okay.
Tom Silverman coming from New York, and all these different people coming from all over the United States and all over the world to speak to young people, to teach them how to own and control their intellectual property. I believe that's my job. It's my charge. I had a great career, and this is, you got to pay back what you get out of life. You got to pay back into it. That's my payback.
That is actually very amazing. When is the Music Summit? Just for anyone listening and they want to attend, when is the summit?
March 23rd and 24th in Sacramento. You can go to creativeexchange.me, creativeexchange.me, spelled out, and you can read all about it.
Okay, so we're going to touch a bit more on the summit if we have the time, but I want to touch on something, because you've just said something about educating those coming up, and because of that, you actually have written a series of books called The Passport to the Music Business, and
right.
you have different elements in these books. What's the one thing that you would want, if anybody's reading any of these books, the one takeaway that you want them to take from each of the series of the books?
How simple the industry is when you take away, remember have you ever seen The Wizard of Oz?
Yes.
Okay, so the wizard was just a guy behind a curtain who worked as mechanical being, right?
Yes.
Well, that's our industry. My books exposes the wizard. It breaks down and simplifies every aspect of his business. So I write them, and so I'll write about distribution only, and the different forms of distribution.
Okay.
So that's everything distribution. Everything publishing deals with the 7 publishing deals. There are only 7 publishing deals, seven types of publishing deals. Any deal you have is a variation of one of the 7. Royalties, the different royalties that exist, how to collect them. So it's just simplifying the music business to the most common denominator that I can for any beginner in our business. So anybody who has any type of understanding will be able to read it and grasp it, something that they probably had a hard time grasping a lot easier.
Okay. And where can these books be published, be found to be bought? Can we find it on Amazon, or do we have to go to your website?
jayking.me, jayking.me.
Okay, so all your links, we'll put up the links on our page once we are done so that people can find it, just in case they are looking and they can't find it directly. We'll share the links on our social media and point to where they can get the books. Because I think actually, like you said, it's very important that if you're going into an industry, that you know your industry, you know what it is that you're going into.
Right.
And you've been talking sorry, go ahead.
No, I wasn't saying anything. I'm sorry.
Okay. And so you were talking about distribution, and one of the questions that we had come in was, how much does it hurt, hypothetically speaking, to have your label handle every aspect of your distribution versus you doing it independently?
Well, it doesn't hurt if you don't have the manpower. It helps. And, so to do it independently means that the more you take on, the more responsible you are. And the more responsible you are, the more you understand about it, but also, the more mistakes that can possibly be made. So I think that it goes to each individual, who the individual is, how involved and dedicated that individual wants to be in to that particular part of the industry. Distribution requires as much tending to as publishing, as production, as marketing, as advertising. Each of those areas, you got to have somebody that understands, that specializes in those areas enough to make sure that you do a thorough, good productive job at being fluent, if you will, in those areas. So you have to be fluent in all of them. And if you're not fluent in distribution, it's nothing to be ashamed of to pass that on to somebody who is. If you're not fluent in the administration of publishing, it's nothing wrong with passing that on into each of the other areas the same.
Okay. So what you're saying is, if you don't know the industry, it's better for you to take, to have someone do it for you rather than to make the costly mistakes yourself.
Right. And even if you know it, if you know the industry, but you're not good enough, it's like somebody that speaks Spanish or speaks French. They know it, but they're just not fluent. They understand it, but they can't communicate well enough to create a dialogue. If you can't do it, it's okay if you have an interpreter there.
Okay. And it makes sense. And I think this is why we need more people like you to educate those in the industry, up and coming, even those who've been in the industry, on how to actually preserve their craft.
Yes. Well, there's a lot of guys that came up in the industry with me that didn't learn the mechanics, don't know how to communicate, that aren't very nice when it comes to interacting with people, that don't know how to build a team, and so you could have been in the music industry 100 years. If you don't know how to build a team, if you're not good at it, you're just not good at it. There are some people that can sing their face off. They're just not good songwriters. Not that they can't write a song. They just don't write good enough songs that they become hits. So, if you're a great singer and you don't know how to write hit records, and you don't know how to go and find people that write hit records. Guess what? You're going to be a great singer that never has a hit record. Right. That people talk about what they should have been, what they could have been, if they had done something a certain way.
Yeah, and that's important. We are getting more, Jay. We are getting more questions come in. We've just had a question in from Nicola Millington, and she goes, "This is an amazing interview first. Thank you, Nicola." And she goes, "What do you think about the impact crowdfunding is having on self-distribution?"
I think it's beautiful. I think it also speaks to the honesty that the artist has with his or her audience. You know, a lot of people think they have a lot of fans because they get a lot of likes or they get a lot of hits. But if you can't convert those people into supporters, patrons, if you will, of your art, then, you know, a lot of people, you see a lot of people with likes and great comments, and what they've done is they've hired a service to do that for them, to make them look bigger than what they are. Mm-hmm. And so they start getting fooled by the very service that they're hiring to fool you. So I think crowdfunding, it keeps it honest. It lets you know what your reach is really like, what people really do like, think about your music. When people love your music, you know it, especially your friends and your family, because they see promise in it. And, you know, and they'll help, you know, finance your dream. But when you get outside of family and friends and you start dealing with the public, when you get them, that's when the reward really happens, because they don't have a vested interest in you other than the fact that they love your art, they love what you do, and you've touched them in such a way that they're willing to put their money where their mouths are.
And that's very
so
important.
I like crowdfunding.
And that's very important. And it seems that a lot of young people are taking to that road of crowdfunding for their craft, not just for music, but also for films. And we're going to come into, we're going to touch on that as well. So, and we've had another question. And the question is, how did you learn how to distribute, especially when you came into the industry?
That's a good question. I didn't. It was crazy. When I first started, when I first did Rumors, I went to my local radio station, which is a reporting radio station, and it's a pop station. Okay. So what that means is that they report to the magazines, so they have a lot of power. That's how records are charted, because it's not just any radio station. You have to be a reporting radio station that reports to a magazine like Billboard or All Access, or wherever charts are being held that people in the industry deem that legitimate charts. So I go to the station. I go in and I tell them I got my record, Rumors. It's my first record, and I'm excited. And they just basically tell me that I'm doing the wrong thing, that I need somebody to work the record for me. I need to have a independent radio promoter come in and promote the record, that my records need to be distributed. So I go to Tower Records, which was one of the big chains at the time, and I tell them that I had this record, and they ask me who's my distributor, and I don't know what a distributor is. And so in the beginning, I did it all wrong.
Right.
And so I started selling records in clubs. And that's how the real street team, what people start calling street teams, that's how we started. I think I was one of the first guys to be in clubs selling my records. And what I would do is I would make a relationship with the owner of a club or the DJ or the manager, and then I would give the DJ $40 or $50, and he would say, "Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? May I have your attention, please? Jay King is in the club tonight with his new record, Rumors, by his group, the Timex Social Club. You can't buy this record at any record store. You won't hear it on any radio station, but he's in the club tonight selling his 12-inch for $3.50. That's $1.50 cheaper than you can buy it in the store. This is Rumors by the Timex Social Club." And they mix it with the show by Dougie Fresh. And I would sometimes I sell 20 records, sometimes I sell 100. But that's how I started. And that's how I learned distribution and the power of, connecting with an audience and creating a buzz and getting your one sheet together. So for me, it was trial and error. And just like now, young people, there's so many ways you can make a record now to have a hit. You don't have to follow anything conventional. You can erase everything you know about the music business and decide you're going to do it your way. Never distribute a record. Never have it on iTunes and just sell directly from your site. I mean, you can do anything you want to do, but you got to remember that it requires a 1,000% effort from you, because this is your new way. It's like building a new city. You still got to populate it with people. And which means you got to build the houses, you got to build the roads, you got to build the infrastructure, you got to have the proper sewage. It's the same in music. You got to have a proper system, a proper distribution system of your music. You got to have whether it's a digital download or a physical distribution. You have to figure out a way that you're going to populate the city, which means that you got to get people coming to your site. How are you going to get people there? So you can, you're going to learn this business by trial and error, and a lot of error.
And I think that's important. And actually, the trial and error is part of growing and creating. If we don't try, it means we're not doing anything new.
That's right. That's right.
And when I look at everything that you're doing, I'm really impressed, and the fact that you've been doing it for so long and you've made it part of your life mission to get others to do it right based on your trial and error. So, to all those creatively coming up, I thank you on their behalf.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're so welcome. Now, you are currently working on your current solo album called Helen's Son. Tell me, what is Helen's Son and what's the inspiration behind it?
Well, Helen is my mom, so I'm obviously her son. And my mother really is probably the most gifted person I've ever met in my life when it comes to just being able to just learn. My mother was an avid reader. She devoured books. I'm talking about 3 or 4 books at a time. My mother never finished high school, had her first baby at 15. My sister had me at 17. My mother went back to school, graduated from college, magna cum laude in nursing, been a doctor. And the reason why I did music the way I did my solo album was because of my mother, because I always wrote all the Club Nouveau stuff, but I wrote other things, and she used to tell me I should just record my own record, and I would say, I'm not good enough for that, I'm not ready for that. And my mom died in 2007 on my 45th birthday. So that was 11 years ago, January 27th, 2007. And it just took the life out of me for a minute. And one day, God just said, she didn't have to be your mom. I didn't have to have Helen. I could have had somebody else who wasn't as great as Helen, who wasn't as inspiring as Helen, who wasn't as giving or as loving as Helen. And one day I just decided I have to get up and make this album. And so at her death, I started working on my first album, which was called Open Book. And I wrote a song called Everything Wonderful about her there. And so Helen's Son is the second album in my solo career that I'm writing, and that I do because it's inspired by Helen. Everything I do at this point, the way I live my life, the way I appreciate it, the way I give it back is because of who she was and who she is in my life. I think the kind of inspiration she brought to me and my brothers and sisters.
Oh wow. Well, your mother sounded like an amazing woman, and she raised an inspirational son right here. So that's an amazing woman to recognize. And it's just gone. Mother's Day has just passed here, so we'll give that to your mother for being an amazing woman. And I actually have a track from your song from this album called "I'm Where You Belong." I think we have some time, and I think we should play this right now.
Okay.
All right, let's put this through.
just can't get it right with you. No, I'm trying to make it with you. Yeah, 'cause I'm lost in this love, just can't get enough of your scent, of your smile, of your tender touch. Late at night, I'm alone, you should be here with me in my arms. I'm where you belong. When I see your face, my mind can't erase the love in my heart that's tattooed to your soul. Takes me to a place I feel really safe with you. Yeah, you've got me searching for truth. Yeah, 'cause I'm lost in this love, just can't get enough of your scent, of your smile, of your tender touch. Late at night.
So we're just gonna stop that right there. I think if they, so people can go out and get the rest of the song. And when can they get Helen's Son, the complete album?
Well, they can buy it now, and it's on iTunes. Or they can go to my website, jking.me, and order it online if they want a physical copy of it.
Okay. I think we should actually, in keeping with who you are, we should ensure that everyone goes directly to your website, which is jking.me, and buy it directly from you, because you are definitely the person who is all about the independent sources here. We've just...
Well, even when you go to iTunes, it's still going to go directly to me. You distribute it through somebody else, but it's still, I still own the record. And I don't want people to be afraid of places like iTunes, because especially in the United States, 9 out of every 10 downloads that happen in the United States happen from iTunes. And so, and around the world, each of those areas have a certain download or streaming service that is dominant in that area. And so I don't ever want to, try to tell people not to use streaming services or not to use platforms where you can download the music, because they're important. They're going to help you. Mm-hmm. And streaming is something that people should love, not because of the money, because the money's not that great now, but because it's identified as a revenue stream.
Right.
And one of the hardest parts of our business is getting the industry to recognize different revenue streams, that don't require an actual sale of a download of certain sort. So the fact that they are recognizing streaming services as a revenue stream can only help us as owners of intellectual properties, because those numbers will get bigger and bigger, the same way Sound Exchange did, and the same way publishing did, the same way royalties did. The same thing is going to happen with streaming.
Right. Okay. We've just gotten some more feedback. People are listening to the song, and we've had Norman come in saying, I love the song. So we're getting some more feedback in.
Okay.
And, you have worked, over your career, you've worked with some amazing people in the music industry. Who would you say would have been your favorite to work with?
Well, I never got a chance to work with him, because by the time I got in the music business, he was already dead. But Marvin Gaye would have been my first choice who I am most inspired by as a musician, just as a lover of his music. I would have loved to have worked with Carlos Jobim, Frank Sinatra, the Beatles, Earth, Wind and Fire, a Cameo. It's just a bunch of them. Any of them that really were making great, timeless music that was innovative and new. I would have loved to have worked with George. Me and George are friends, Clinton, but I would have loved to have worked with George in the beginnings of the Parliament Funkadelic thing, because they were just mind-blowing. They were so mind-blowing then that you can't make music like that today. Nobody comes close.
Okay. And you've also worked with Karen White, not just musically,
Yeah.
but you're currently working with her on a brand new upcoming movie called Gale and Storm,
Yeah.
and you're the film producer. What drove
Yeah,
you
it's loosely, but
Go ahead.
what drove me to doing independent films was
With Karen
my
White.
first independent film. I'm sorry, you can ask a question. I apologize.
That's okay. I was going to say, what drove you to say yes to doing this project with Karen White?
Well, I managed Karen White, and Karen was, expanding her career from music into film and television. And we were looking for a project to get her on, and we kept running into all of these dead ends. Karen is a pretty innovative Renaissance woman herself. So she is not afraid to invest in projects and develop properties and film and stuff. And she had done a few things, and we just felt like nobody was following through. People would get her money and they wouldn't follow through. So we decided, let's just make a film, make our own film. And so she and Derek Muhammad, her writing partner, they got together and wrote this film called Gale and the Storm, which was loosely based on our lives, me and Karen's.
Okay.
And how we became a partnership. And so that's, but I had done a few films before, and Karen knew it. So she was just piggybacking off of things that I had learned. And Karen is a pretty astute student. If she gets involved with something, she's not going to just be peripheral to it. She's going to get into it. She's going to jump into it. She's going to learn as much as she can. She's going to control as much of it as she can, and that's what she's done with this movie, and it's really a great movie. It's a great testament to her work ethic also.
Okay, that's very, very inspirational. Now, you mentioned that this is not your first movie that you've produced, and you've worked in other independent movies. What, again, it's almost going to be the same question. What drove you to independent movies?
Well, it was by chance. I was at Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles in Los Angeles, and a guy that I knew who was an actor, he said, "Hey, man, I'm working with these guys, working on an independent film, and they need somebody like you. They need money. Would you be interested?" And I said, if it made sense, yeah. So I said, I'm leaving. I'm going back up north today. I'll come back next week. And so the following week, I flew into L.A., saw the film that they were doing. It was a rough. They needed about $50,000 immediately, or their film was going to be, they were in trouble. They had deadlines to meet. And so the movie starred Glenn Plummer and Terrence Howard. Terrence Howard was a nobody at this time. Nobody even knew his name.
Okay.
And I liked the film, and we didn't have a contract done, and they were worried about whether they were going to get the contract done on time. And I said, don't worry about the contract. We'll get that done. I'm going to send you the money. So I sent them the money, and the guy called me and said, hey, man, we're just worried about getting you proper agreement. I said, last thing I'm worried about is you taking my money from me. Taking my money would probably be detrimental to you. So I'm not concerned with that. And They laughed about it, and then I gave them the money, and then we did the deal, and that was that. And I just feel like if there's something you want to do, you just got to do it. When you start second guessing too long, or third guessing, or any of that, you probably are going to miss the boat. I'm a risk taker.
Right.
I believe in my instincts. I followed it, and it was a very successful movie for me.
Okay. And may I ask, what was that movie?
Love Beat the Hell Out of Me. It was called Love Beat the Hell Out of Me. It was an independent film and went straight to DVD. We did a small run in movie theaters.
Okay.
And it looked like we weren't going to make any money at all. And then this thing, it went to VHS because the DVD wasn't even out yet. And then this thing called the DVD happened. And the DVD went crazy. And we went from having a movie that was going to lose to a movie that doubled our investments. So, I ended up putting considerably more than $50,000 in it, closer to $600,000. But
wow,
I doubled my money, and it was a great investment.
Interesting. Okay, so
and that's what got me in you.
This is actually great because looking at where we are right now in the world, we are celebrating a particular movie reaching the $1 billion mark. With the successes of recent Black featured movies, do you think that we may see an increase in more movies created by people of color?
Well, there's always been a lot of movies of people created by people of color. We have to look at the reality here. The reality is you got a big film studio that spent $200 million on a movie. So, but, it's a Black movie because the characters are set up, and it's the Black Panther, but it's a comic book story.
Mm-hmm.
It has it's shot well. All of these comic book movies have done well. I don't know if it's going to create an avalanche of Black films, Black cinema being promoted around the world or not. I saw recently where the Chinese were saying that it's hard to see that with all the Black people on the film, it's hurting their eyes because they're dark skin against the dark colors or whatever crazy stuff they said.
Oh no!
So there's always going to be some. Okay. So when we get a world that's honest enough to have a conversation first about race and about how silly it is, and we get a world, especially in the United States of America, when the United States of America is honest enough to have a conversation about slavery and what it did and how the crimes it committed against humanity. And that's when we'll have films of all genres, of all makes, of all cultures, of all dialogues, interesting conversations, because as people, we will be past the small-minded BS that we've been conditioned in. Until then, this would just be a big movie that happened to have Black folks in it.
No, I do see your point. We do need, there is that need for that conversation, but oh my God, I actually did not hear that conversation about the movie hurting people's eyes. Well, okay, don't go see it. That's all I can say to you. If it hurts your eyes, go see something else. I'm going to keep coming back to the fact that you are an author, a producer, not just of music, but of film as well. You are an activist, an educator, and an artist in your own right. Let me ask you this. How do you take care of you with everything that you do? What are your current self-care practices to actually take care of you in the midst of all that you do?
Well, I'm a non-drinker, non-smoker, non-drugger, non-clubber, heterosexual male. So I've never drank, never smoked, never drank anything at all. No wine, no beer, nothing.
Right.
I get up at 5 o'clock every morning and work out. I'm 56 years old. I'm 5'6.5", 5'7". I weigh 169 pounds. I go to bed around 9 or 10 o'clock at night, so I can wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to work out. I enjoy my life.
Right.
I don't concern myself with stress or worry because I trust my life ride. And I think most people don't enjoy the life ride. They don't trust it. And a lot of people are stressed. They're stressed for a lot of reasons, And you have to divorce yourself from a conditioned mind and marry yourself to new ideas and new thoughts, and vibrate at a higher level, and require more from yourself. I think money is a funny thing because people love money, people want money, people need money, and so they go after it at any cost, and they sell a whole bunch of who they are, a whole bunch of what they believe to get money. And then one day what you find out is once you've had money for a while, is that money can only buy you the things that you already have. There's nothing new that you're going to buy. You can buy another car. You can buy some more shoes, some more clothes. You can buy another house, but you already have those things. Mm-hmm. So after a little while, even money doesn't become satisfying. So what I do is I really get to know me. I really explore myself. I really enjoy the process, and I love reading, and I love music. I enjoy the life as it's in front of me. And that's how I really take care of myself. I make sure that the life I walk in is a life that I enjoy. Okay. And I think that's part of the enjoyment of it.
And I think that's actually, a great lesson to take there. Enjoy the life you're living. Make time to actually live your life. Yes, your career is great. Running after that is important. Money is great, but love the life that you live in. So I'm going to thank you for that. That is something that I'll take away from this evening. So, Jay, it's been amazing talking with you and having you on our show this evening.
Well, thank you so much. I enjoyed it, and I appreciate you for wanting me.
You were so welcome. And if you've missed the show, listen to the replay. Stop by Mr. King's website, which is jking.me. Find out a bit more about this man.
Jayking.
Yes, jayking.me, and stop by and discover what this man has to offer. Discover why he creates what he creates. Stop by and purchase his books, but also share the music and share the love. It's been my absolute pleasure having you on the show. So we are going to wrap this up very quickly, people. It is past the hour. Join us for the same time, same place next week as we have the legendary Karen White on the show. It is going to be an amazing show. This is me, Lillian Bogo, signing off after an amazing show with the incredible Jay King. And it's a wrap, folks.
You've been listening to The Shine Out Loud Show. If you want to connect with us or let us know what you thought of today's show, be sure to follow us on Twitter @Shine Out Show.